All the pretty girls stand up. All the pretty boys stand up.
Pretty boys in the building.
Sway. This right here is my sway. All the girls are on me. Damn. Everybody pay attention. This right here is my pretty boy sway.
Soldier.
Get out the way. Pretty boy coming through.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. Good morning. Very early Thursday stream, special one here on the channel. Why are we streaming this morning? Where is my Swaggle Haas pre-recorded video? We're not going to get one today. Today is going to be this. And why are we doing this? Because we have a very, very special Kickstarter victory lap that we got to take for Sean Chen and Daniel Wu and 24/7 Comics for the comic book series Evermind. Because currently, right now, we are about 84 minutes away from the campaign closing. So we got to get the word out. You know, we got to get the last FOMO purchases, last little bit of backers out there. We got to get, people's attention on this project because these are good friends of the channel. They've worked hard on these books, and I'm proud of them. I got to support. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about the Kickstarter. We're going to bring on these guests. We're going to have a great conversation about it. Talk a little bit about the project if you guys are interested to hear about it. And then, also we're going to cover a bunch of topics that we got to cover. It was just NYCC. We had a lot of interesting news stories come out of the NYCC. We got new CBCS labels. Of course, the title of the thumbnail of the video here today is, should CGC be worried? Is CGC worried? I think you guys know what I probably think is the answer to that question. But we're going to ask that question regardless. And I have some interesting things to look at. I did a little poll on the channel last night that we can talk about. We'll get the panel's input here on this conversation. And then you guys in the chat, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about these labels. Everybody is, talking about them. This is the big talk, at least in the comic collecting side of the hobby, these new labels. Will it actually make a difference? Can this get any market share back from CGC? Well, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. And I'd love to hear what you guys ultimately think. Then I think we're going to get into, some of the NYCC wrap up. How was the con itself? I personally wasn't there, but some of our panelists were there. So we'll get their thoughts on it. We'll talk a little bit about, some of the hot books coming out of that show. I got some original art stuff I want to talk about. I got some market report stuff, just some interesting comic book sales that I think are interesting to see. I noticed them go on eBay. So I want to talk about those and relate it back to everything I've been talking about with my index videos and how prophetic I am with those market reports and those comic book indexes, because the correction claims all. The correction claims all. But we're not going to belabor that. We're going to talk about that when we get there. Let us check in with the chat this morning. Early morning here. Just got to say hello to some people. We got Marvel Dakota. Good morning, Swaggle Poo. It's funny you say Swaggle Poo because there was a poo story out of NYCC. Maybe Sean or Carl can tell you about their experience with that. Let's see. Marvel also says, since nothing ever came about from CGC giving 9 9s and 10 blue labels to Black Flag's bootleg acetate covers, they know that there's nothing they can do that will deter the sheep from flocking to them. Yeah, well, I think the big problem is, so long as the values of CGC are the go-to values that command the most on the secondary market, well, then that's going to be what people send it to, right? So you can buck the trend as much as you want. You can buy CBCS in protest to acetate gate and all those sort of things. But at the end of the day, if you're in this to make money or to flip books, or whatever, or to buy books. And at least if you're not going to sell them and flip them, you're going to want to hold the floor value. You're probably going to go to CGC. But the new labels are interesting, and my poll that I took is very, very interesting, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Trevor's baseball cards, yo, what's going on? We got 24/7 Comics. Hey everyone, we're about to close out in 1.5 hours. Absolutely. Peter Thornton in the house. Hello, swag and chat. Peter, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. We got Izzy versus NYC. What's going on, Izzy? Hey, Swaggle, NYCC was great. Sorry you missed it. Maybe next time have a good show. Yeah, I'm definitely bummed that I missed it. I had some outside YouTube stuff that I attended here in the Los Angeles area, which was also really fun. But maybe next year. Next year, I think I should go to NYCC for sure. I do hear that it is one of the best shows. We got J. Dow Kapow, Ola. We got Dan De La Torre in the house. What's going on, Dan? Good to see you, man. We got Mr. Chandler. This is where the fun begins. Absolutely. Mr. Chandler. Let's see. We got a few other people here. Hello, everyone here. Flix Comics in the house. Good morning. What's going on, Flix or Jojo? Good to see you guys. Yeah, thanks so much for stopping in. Of course, again, we're going to go for a little bit here. We're going to get into some different stories. We're going to see this Kickstarter campaign go across the finish line. I know what it takes. It's been it's a long campaign. It's a even though the Kickstarter itself goes 30 days. I mean, this is like weeks and months, years maybe. Depends on if you're counting when the initial idea starts, decades even for Sean to get to this point. So we gotta pat ourselves on the back with it, and we gotta talk about the end of this Kickstarter. So a very, very successful campaign. But with all that being said, I do have some people here in the background that I do want to bring onto the stream. Our panelists today, we got the man of the hour himself. We got Sean Chen here, writer artist of Evermind. We got Carl Choi, of course, lead of 24/7 Comics, and we got Josh here, community manager for 24/7 Comics. Josh, what's going on? Carl,
hey guys.
You guys.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, guys? Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. How's it going, guys? Were you all at NYCC this year? I can't remember. I think or Josh, were you there? I know Carl and Sean were there.
I was not there, but I watched from the sidelines.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you and me were in the same boat in that situation. Well, Sean and Carl, how was NYCC? What were your top level thoughts? Did you pick up some foil covers? Did you sign any foil covers? How'd you think of the show?
I was mostly in Artist Alley the whole time, so I didn't really go see the main show too much. I had a lot of duties and a lot of people to meet in Artist Alley, but that part was hopping. It was it had a stellar guest list, and it was great to see everyone again, and everyone was at the top of their game. And just noticing all the news that I saw was like a lot of these artists banding together and writers banding together into smaller groups, and kind of going at it on their own, kind of like what we're doing with 24/7 Comics.
Right. What about you, Carl? Was it how's the show overall?
It was awesome. I mean, NYCC is one of my favorite shows of all times. I mean, I told you this before, but It's definitely one of the ones where I feel like I never have enough time. And so even though we're there for all 4 days and even the night before, I didn't feel like I got everything done. But it was cool because on Thursday, I got a chance to be, Josh and a handful of other friends as proxy there, picking up variants before they all sold out. So it was kind of nice just to help some friends get what they needed as well.
For sure. Well, you guys were there to, be at the show, pick up some stuff, and we all got some, or you guys have a couple pickups or purchases that you can talk about, but also there to, like I said, promote. Here it is, Evermind, Sci-Fi Saga by Daniel Wu and Sean Chen. 3 hours. 3 hours. I thought we were at 1.5 hours.
We should be at 1.5 hours. I don't know why it's 3 hours.
Do we?
Well, I like that number though. 37,000. I like that.
Yeah. I noticed in the background it got a little reset in the number before I pulled it up. So
let me see. That's weird. Okay, let me.
Yeah, I think
look at that, guys. $37,259. 348 backers. 3 hours to go, presumably. I think I can't remember exactly what my Kickstarter experience was like. I mean, I think it's 1.5 hours from now is technically the end of the campaign. Maybe Kickstarter gives you an extra hour. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really remember, but look at that. A stone's throw away from 40,000 can we get to the milestone number? If you guys want to, get in on this with just a couple hours left, go check it out. I think you won't be disappointed. How was taking this book out to NYCC? Did you, I know you have some ash cans, Sean. Did you maybe sign some ash cans out there, or, did you kind of promote this book specifically, or were you just sort of just promoting just all your other artwork as well?
Oh, it was entirely this book. So we handed out lots of flyers, and we did a lot of, speaking panel stuff. And then sometimes I have to rush home from the convention to do an interview and just juggle a lot. So usually at a show, I'd make a ton of money in Artist Alley doing commissions, but this time it was hardly any of that. It was just basically pounding the pavement and getting the word out on this, just to, because this is, it just happened to be right in the middle of the campaign toward the end. So I kind of had to sit it out in terms of taking commissions. Right.
And what's been the feedback? I mean, I bet everyone, it's been overwhelmingly positive.
Every time I do an interview, I have to send them review copies. And then also there is a review that just came up on was it Nerd something, Nerd Initiative? All the reviews are very good, like surprisingly, well, not really surprisingly, I spent a lot of time on it, but they've been coming in very positive. And what I like the most is that they're actually talking about structurally as a comic that it works well. It's not that I just happened to stumble upon a great story idea, but actually the way it was executed. A lot of them pointed out how it's a big story with a big idea, but then still with all that solid storytelling principles and techniques really bring it home. So that really gave me a shot in the arm in terms of like being an artist turned writer. Right.
What about from your side, Josh? Kind of doing a lot of the community stuff for this book and for 24/7. What's been your kind of experience with it so far?
It's been pretty interesting, to say the least. One thing that I do know is that Sean's a little too humble in his regard, as just like, this book is incredibly well written. The art is wonderful. It's a lot of things that are interesting with the current comic book industry is that you have the writers and you have the artists, and maybe their visions don't always mesh. But here you have Sean doing both. He's doing the art as well as doing the writing. So, it's 100% like, his vision is coming to life on the pages. And it's important for, I think the community and those people who are thinking about backing to know that in that, like, this is like a movie, set on paper. It's wonderful. I can't wait to read, 4, 5, and 6 once those are done. And just get the full picture of what's going on here with Evermind. It's fantastic. And other things that have been challenging, and interesting to see is like, as we are going, we are unlocking all these tiers with the Kickstarter. At 40,000, as a matter of fact, we unlock our next tier, which allows anybody who backed to be an art director for the Evermind number 5 cover. And the last tier that unlocked helps, everybody gets to be an art director for the Evermind number 4 cover. So that's pretty cool. Like, you get to put your input in and help decide the fate of the cover of the next 2 issues. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is kind of fun. I mean, hopefully Sean agrees with your vote. You have no choice at this point. You gotta agree. What, Carl? You also had a couple. We talked about this before. You were not really going to do the variant cover things, but now you guys have some variants in the works. You met some artists out in NYCC. What's up with that?
I know, it's like one of those, like, you say osmosis, where like if you're around it enough, then you become it. And I felt like the big topic at NYCC this year was variants up the wazoo. So
I
felt like on day one, I was shopping so much for my friends that I started questioning ourselves, going, should we have done a variant? Should we have done a variant? And then throughout the weekend, it was really funny because every time we talk about the Kickstarter, that topic will come up. And so by the time, I think it was like the last day came around, one of our mutual friends, Sean and my mutual friends, Jerry, who's a really good friend of the company and crew, really said, you know what, you just gotta do it, and basically, called out one of the artists, say, hey, would you do a cover for Carl? And then the guy's like, yeah, sure, and then he did it, and then it gave us some confidence to go recruit others, and then we went and asked a few of our other friends, and then they jumped on board, and it was awesome. It was one of those things that really allow us to give something extra to the community. And then, although I think in hindsight, probably went better we opened up with it, because I ran to a few backers at our local comic shop yesterday and was like, I'm a little confused. And so don't worry, I think we're gonna have them as add-ons, and we're gonna print a limited amount so that whatever we don't sell out on Kickstarter, we'll make them available at future conventions. So we jumped on the variant bandwagon, and hopefully we can do something a little different on this one, and make it very limited, so it's not like variant on top of variants and unlimited copies. So we want to make sure these are truly collectible items.
Yeah. What about you, Sean? Do you think you'll play a little bit of art director on some of these variants, or nah? Just let them do what they want.
It's really a murderer's row of artistic talent there. So I don't really want to mess with. I mean, we have Matteo Scalera, so I don't want to tell him what to do at all, because I'm just in awe of his work, and it inspires me. So the last thing I want to do is start pushing him around. So yeah, I'm really excited for them, and these are all like not just friends, but really great artists. And I was actually surprised that they would make time in their schedule to do this. It was a real honor to hear. Like, just to know that I didn't know how good of a friend they are, but they would kind of move things aside to make room for this. So, yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Well, we're going to come back to Evermind in a little bit. I'm going to use this image to transition to, I guess, kind of the big topic I want to at least talk about today, which is the CBCS thing. Obviously, you guys have your CGC signature tier. Maybe you're going to have to do a CBCS tier.
We might
after this
labels,
because we got to talk about new labels from CBCS. Everyone in the chat, weigh in on this. I need to hear your guys' thoughts as well on this stuff. Now, Sean, I don't know, or Josh, like how much you're kind of in this space or talk about this or whatever, but this is like a big news coming.
I think it is
CBCS.
big news. Yeah, I do.
Because CBCS, shout out to everyone over there at who works at CBCS, but they have been sort of the little brother for quite some time when it comes to like comic book grading. Their slabs on a book by book basis generally sell, I would say, at a 5% to like maybe upwards of 10% discount on like another book. So if you had two of the same book at the same grade in each slab, people would pay more for the CGC one. And one of the complaints has always been the label itself just never looked good. Like, it just ugly design. People really didn't like them. You can see here's their old label. It just, just blue and just a bunch of word vomit, like the number just not really sticking out, but some people like that. I mean, the philosophy behind it was always, well, your eye should go to the art on the book. Like, don't worry about the label, like keep the label kind of muted. That was a philosophy, but it just never really worked out in practicality. Now they kind of roll out their new label, which again, it's so funny. Their graphic, it just doesn't, like, what is this? Like, I want to see the label. Like, now I have to.
Yeah, they need some design help, man.
Yeah,
even though the labels are better, the presentation is just not strong.
I've made the joke a few times. I'm just like, I don't know why CBCS hasn't emailed me, because I can come up with some flamethrower marketing campaigns for them and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I can help out their launch. But before I turn it over to you guys on the panel and check in with the chat, I did take a poll on my community page last night. Let me do a quick refresh and just sort of see where we're at here. All right. So I said, let's get the community's opinion on this new CBCS label. What do you think? We have 446 votes. Let's vote for right now. I'm going to say I love it and we'll send books to CBCS. All right. So we have 26% said that they love this and will send books to CBCS. So a quarter of people are like, oh, okay, this maybe changes my opinion. 54%, an improvement, but like CGC better. 5% prefer the old labels, and then 14% they suck, CGC for life. So when I look at this poll, I think what well, 80% of people feel like this is better, right? Like, I mean, between this and this, 80% of people feel like this is a good step. I feel like that's a good number to be hitting. But with that being said, only 26% of people are sort of hitting this button that kind of implies that you would send it to them over CGC. And I sort of kind of meme a little bit in the thumbnail asking the question, so should CGC be worried about losing market share? Is this finally going to turn the tide? What do you guys think? Do you guys have any opinions on this as far as the aesthetics of the label, or I guess, you know, if you have Carl, I don't know if you're in the grading space of even cards and stuff, you know, everyone goes to like PSA versus like, you know, Beckett and things like that. What do you guys think about this change?
Grading wise, I dabble in it. It's not like a big thing for me. I think if it's convenient, then I'll get it. Or if I really love something, I'll get it. But it's weird. I do have like a handful of like, you know, the CBCS slabs, and quality wise isn't there. Like they just feel a little, you know, less rigid. They feel a little less shiny. The labels aren't really there. And now that I think about it, I literally had every intention to stop by the CBCS booth at New York Comic Con, but I remember walking by and it looked kind of slow. It didn't look like, you know, they were really launching something. And so I think in alignment with the new label, they would turn everything else up as well. And I'm not sure they actually did that. So how was the online buzz? I mean, as much as you took the survey, like, did you feel like it traveled to like all the channels? It was big coverage. I didn't feel that level of buzz. I mean, that it should have had for the label.
I don't feel it at all. And like, maybe Josh, you can weigh in on this from your perspective. Like, I mean, and I don't want to be mean, but like, obviously I have a pretty decent background in doing marketing stuff. And I just feel like, I don't know. I think their marketing department needs to step up. Maybe it's a small company out there. Maybe they don't have like the resources to put into this stuff, but this feels like it could have been a huge opportunity to do a major like rebrand, not just of the label, but like a push as the marketing company. And also I think one of the CBCS's issues is like, I just don't think that they have like really a positioning at all, or like they don't really have a, they don't stand for anything specific within context to the hobby. Like, I don't know what they are as a brand outside of the not as good CGC. And I think that they could have, with this new label, sort of doubled down on, you know, who they want to be, or who they are as a company, and what they stand for. But that's my thought. So I feel like, yeah, it wasn't really there. I mean, I made a video about it and maybe got them some views, but yeah, as far as coming from them, it didn't really feel like it was too big of a push. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Personally, the new label is much better than the old label, in my opinion. You know, you now have contrast with the grade, but it's just kind of a copycat version of what CGC has already been doing, with the exception of the 9.9 and the 10 grade.
Yeah.
Which is really where I think, if this works for them, that's where they're going to stand out, is that they have that differential, that difference there in those higher grades. And where I actually see, what I feel like, you know, and this is just my opinion, is like, this is going to work well for them on modern books. And so they're going to be using these 9.9 and 10 labels to get a little bit of that market share from CGC. And in the long term, I really feel like CGC might have to turn around and change their higher grade labels. And what might happen is, you know, we all know that, you know, CBCS is a little bit looser on their grading. So you might see a lot of 9.9s and 10s coming out of them on their modern books and new submissions. Whereas, you know, it might also then in turn affect the harsh graders over at CGC on modern books, to where they're churning out more 9.9s and 10s.
Yeah. It's interesting because as you can see up here, you know, in the upper left corner, if you guys don't know, they upon their release of these new labels, you know, the 9.8 is the typical kind of standard highest grade, but now they have like if you get a 9.9 or a 10, which is exceptionally rare to begin with, to get a grade of that level, you'll get, you know, this gold number here, the 10 and the black background and all that stuff. And you do sort of wonder, like you were saying, Josh, like, is the push to be like, okay, well, let's really pander to modern comic books. Like if I pick up an Evermind copy, and at this point, if Evermind is, you know, secondhand market value is really just the retail value, you know, when a new comic book comes out, well, what's the difference? If I just send it to CGC or CBCS, the same value for the most part. So, but if I can send it to CBCS and get a shiny gold 10, you know, with my Evermind copy, and have it be a little bit of a flex number, like maybe that's their push. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. I don't know. What do you think, Sean, about all this stuff, or Carl?
Well, it's a little bit strange to me. I think these those slabs are very simple. There's not much you can do. I mean, you can't just say like, we're going to change the color of the plastic. There's nothing you can really change. So it seems like they make a big deal about the label. So it's like, if you had a car company, you can say like, well, we have new hubcaps and maybe a new grille design, because you really can't touch any of the mechanics inside, because that's a whole new car. But I mean, coming from a guy that, if I'm making a comic book, you know, the entire cover is something that I did. And then every single, like 150 panels inside is I drew. And then the story I wrote, like those are really big decisions that can really make or break an entire company. But, you know, changing a label, just, I don't know. To me, it just seems a little trivial, but I can kind of see like there's not much you can change with these. So this is news.
Yeah.
I agree. Carl? Yeah, I agree with all the points Josh said as well. And I think Peter also nailed it. I feel like they're going to start pushing the 9.9 and 10s. And that could be very attractive to collectors, because you can now go on eBay and say, this is a 10, this is a 9.9. And it gives you like a little step above CGC. Trevor mentioned something that CGCS is a Beckett company. I didn't know that. You guys know that?
Yeah, they are. I don't know. It's a sister company to Beckett. Beckett is a huge card grading company. So
yeah, and I wish they would just kept Beckett, because I think it would give them a lot more credibility. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they changed the name or not use the same name. Like if I was doing a label change, I would have flipped it to Beckett and say, you know what, like we're totally different than CGC. Like there's differentiation, and then Beckett actually has really strong credibility within the grading scene.
Yeah. I don't understand why they've not decided that either, because like you said, it's Beckett. I would say Beckett is closer to PSA, who PSA in cards is like the, you know, it's kind of like the CGC, the top. But like I would say Beckett is, at one point at least, Beckett was closer to PSA than CBCS is close to CGC. So like the brand name of Beckett, I think, carries a little more weight. I wonder if there's a little bit of maybe like internal politics and ego, you know, right? Where it's like you don't, whoever at CBCS is proud of that banner doesn't really want to be consumed by Beckett. But it feels like that could have been another part of this. Like if you did a whole rollout with a new label, you could have said like, oh, introducing, we're now Beckett, you know, or whatever it is. But it's very interesting. And yeah, I think it's this feels like sort of an inevitability, like what you've been saying, Josh, and some people in the comments have been bringing this up as well. This idea of like, yeah, pushing to the 9.9s and the 10s. Like, it just feels like this is the natural way to sort of like, you know, get a little bit more, money out of this, a little more of a chase towards this. And we've already been seeing it. Like if you guys in the comic space, like you over the last like 2 years, 9.8s were always the thing. It was like 9.8, that's it. Like, I mean, you got a 9.9, it was literally mind blowing. Like it just didn't make sense. It'd be like, of the 10,000 comics that were sent in, only one of them hit a 9.9, and nobody actually understood like why it hit a 9.9. It just was like, oh, here it is. But more recently with newer comic books, it's been much more common for even CGC to give out 9.9s and 10s. And I think maybe there's some argument to be made where if you have like a company like you guys 24/7, you're making Evermind, maybe you're not going to the traditional printing places. You're going to like higher quality printing, or you're using materials like cardstocks typically can get 10s, because technically if you make a cardstock thing, it actually is perfect, versus like a typical Marvel floppy. So I don't know, maybe there's a way for them to suggest that this really is a 9.9 or this really is a 10 because the materials are improving. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, Berserker from Boom is literally coming out with like every kind of cardstock / chromium / whatever covers, and I don't know why I still go and I would buy one just to support, but I usually look at the grades and they all look perfect. So I can't imagine any of those getting graded under 9.9 or 9 or 10. But I do have to say it's interesting. A topic that Reef brought up was like there's a crazy reason raw signed books by writers and artists are held undervalued because CGC doesn't want to verify the signatures. And there's a whole world of that. I didn't understand like the racket until I sat on the plane with Ken and Christian on the way to Baltimore Comic-Con, and they each had these carry-on cases. And when we were picking up our baggage, they opened up to show me. They were just jam-packed of books for artists to sign, and during the weekend they had this huge list of just artists they want to engage and get their book signed. And I didn't realize how big of a community of folks who are like in retirement or just as their weekend job is to go out and get all their books signed. That's a thing. And so I do realize that there may be a market that's kind of undervalued there, but at the same time, some of these are a little bit more personal, so like personal to them, so they don't really care about selling it. So it's really interesting. I wonder if there's something there. And I do want to say one thing before we move on is I know that CGC, at least since my adolescence, has gotten much more lax on giving up 9.8, because I do pick up a 9.8, and sometimes I do see things that back in the day would never fly.
Yeah, like you almost do wonder if it's like do they have to, if their internal thought is like, okay, we got to start doing 9.9s and 10s, like is their thought process like, oh, let's just change the entire grading scale to like 9.8s, we can be more relaxed, like you said, now, because now we're going to give 9.9s and 10s. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. It feels like it's only a matter of time before it becomes a secondhand to do a 10.0 label. But yeah, I thought that this was an interesting push for them, and I feel like the fact that they made such an emphasis on 10s and 9.9s means that they're going to give it out, because like, why would you spend so much time pushing, like coming up with its own design and doing this whole thing, when in reality only 1% of the books you grade are actually going to like hit this label? Like it's a lot of like effort and resource. I guess it's not that much resource, but you guys know what I mean. Like just putting in effort to like have to print, a different color and doing that sort of stuff if you're not actually going to use it. So I don't know, feels like maybe a smart push for them.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at that like black background with gold 10. I want a couple of those. I would want more.
They should have made this whole label black.
Yeah, if it wasn't CBCS, I would want it more, to be honest.
Yeah,
but it's really cool. Just from that little highlight there.
Yeah, I think they maybe whiffed just a hair on the 10. Like the 10 should be all black label and like white lettering or gold lettering over the whole thing, and just like really make it pop. Because I mean, it pops now, but like the blue and the black and the gold, they don't mix. Like the
9.9 to me looks awful, because it feels like the 9.9 blurs into the blue. Like it feels like they should have just kept it white. So it goes from black 9.8 on white to a gold 9.9 on white, and then to a black 10, or like a gold 10 with a black label. That would have been kind of sick.
So is there like a signature series, like yellow label equivalent at CBCS, or purple label, green label equivalent there?
Let me see it here. I'm gonna find this. I'll pull up this image, because there is that as well. Like they've always sort of had. Oh, here we go. Let me see if I can get this up.
Okay, so they did need to differentiate themselves from CGC, but they didn't do that. Like this rebrand was such a failure. Actually, now that the more I look at it, And yeah, that 10 with the black and the blue. Come on, man. Like, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah.
Horrible.
You know what's funny though, to your point, like, so, you know, when you have like a wall like this, right, and you got all your books there, there is a part of me that like I do get annoyed when I see like CGC, and then I have a CBCS slab, and like my OCD gets all bothered because they don't all look uniform. And this label, like, you know, if you squint a little bit and you look at it from afar, you kind of don't see the difference anymore. And I almost wonder if that was what they ultimately thought. We're like, let's make it the same so that people don't really even understand the difference, or they don't feel the difference, like when they buy stuff. Like that could have been the thought process as well. I don't know. But very interesting here. Let's see if there's anyone else in the chat that has thoughts about this. The idea that a comic has more value because one grading company grading it over another is absolutely ridiculous. Guys, please stop the gatekeeping BS. With the raw is better than graded. Well, Obi-Wan, you are not alone in thinking that. I mean, a lot of people feel that way for sure. I think it's because also too, like, you know, it's silly, but there's that fear that people think that CGC grading is better than CBCS. So if I buy a 9.8 CBCS, am I really getting a 9.8? Maybe it's a 9.6, you know, if I sent it to CGC. I mean, these are all the things that people think about, and it has its effect on the values.
Yeah, Trevor also hit it on the head where he thinks, you know, they need a full-on rebrand, not a label change.
Yeah,
that's true. And him being more of like the expert in the card space, he also mentioned that Beckett is like way down now from CGC, so it looks like
that's true.
Murdering them on the card side as well. So I don't know, man. They definitely need a rebrand, some sort of acquisition by somebody to maybe PSA could acquire Beckett, and like combine what, you know, their brand is to this, and maybe there's some, you know, fair competition there. But yeah, this is not doing it. This looks bad.
Yeah. Well, again, it's interesting to see. I feel like I have to clap it up for them a little bit.
Yeah,
because
80%
people, 80% people, at least at the very least, prefer this more than what it was. So hey, it's good. They made a little bit of a change. Now, back to my thumbnail. Should CGC be worried about this? Probably not. I mean, probably not. Like, I just don't think that it really matters all that much. I think if you have vintage comic books, it's always going to be the no-brainer to send it to CGC if your goal is to get max value out of it. But maybe the modern market, that could change, you know, with all these 9.9s and 10.0s.
Jimmy mentioned that like CBCS will also grade without the green label, so they'll give you the signature without a witness. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that's always been one of CBC. That's the one thing CBCS offers, is that if Sean signs a book and no one's there to see it, they can verify. They will verify his signature through however they end up deciding to do that, and they'll give you a signature label, where CGC will not do that. They will always say they'll have a green label and it'll say writing on the cover, Sean Chen, you know, and so because they can't actually confirm that someone did it, which I can respect the stringency of it, but you know, sometimes you just see it and you're like, yeah, that's clearly his signature.
I don't know, but forgery is a thing, man. It's
yeah, that's true. I mean, you're right.
You
know, it's actually, someone did a video on YouTube. I can't remember the guy's name, but he did that. He's like, it's sort of a like, I'm gonna prove a point video of like, I'm gonna forge a signature and send it into CBCS, and kind of did the like, hey guys, I faked the signature and I got the gold label, and you know, it was one of those things. So it was pretty damning, you know, in that sense. But I don't know. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to ask, because you guys brought this up earlier, Sean. What do you think about somebody in the chat was talking about, raw books being signed by creators, that should be better. Like, you know, it's funny, the whole, like, if you sign a book for me and you sign it Sean Chen, that's one thing. But if you sign it to Mickey, hope you enjoy this Evermind book, Sean Chen, like some artists would be like, oh, I'll do that for free because it's to you. Versus like, if I just write my name, in theory, this is like, maybe you're going to flip this or you're going to grade it and you're going to sell it. Like, do you ever think about that type of thing?
Well, I probably should. A lot of times when people bring stuff up to me, I'm very naive. I don't really know whether they own a store or whether it's for their personal collection. I used to ask like, hey, you want me to sign this to you? And then usually it's like, oh no, just your name. Because like, I don't mind putting like best wishes. And it kind of dawned on me later, oh, okay, they need to be able to flip this later. Yes, I don't really know what's going on a lot of times with signatures. Like the thing with the blue tape window, like someone told me when you see that, that's a warning sign, but I don't know what they're warning me of. But I think the thing that if someone brings multiple copies of something, then I get a little suspect. And then I used to basically sign for free. Now the reason I started charging for ones that I know are going to be graded or something is because when they ask me if I charge, I always say no, and then they look at me like I'm crazy, they won't accept that answer because everyone else is charging. So just to make things go a little smoother, it's like, oh yeah, $2, and then everything's fine. So.
Yeah, you almost have to. You got to put a little bit of a number, like because it is expected at this point in some way.
Yeah.
Even if it is like $2 or $5 or something, it's just like some rails on it.
John's the most generous guy out there. I mean, while everyone charges, he's so good about just giving signatures away. And good thing we have this Kickstarter campaign, so there's some sort of change. So now we're trying to train his audience to start, making sure they do a fair exchange because I think Sean's put a lot of his time and love into the craft, and I think it's about time.
In case you guys are just joining us, to that point, we're counting down Evermind here.
Oh my God!
Look at that.
Oh,
we got 38,000. 2 hours left.
Here unlocking very soon. And what's cool about this is at 40K, we're gonna showcase some more of the artists that we work with here. So Warwick, Johnson Cadwell, he's Mike Mignola's guy exclusively for a long time, and now he's doing an original book with us. We have Vince Sunico, who's very well known in the con commission space, and then we also have EJ Su and Walter Geddes, who are great designers in their own right. And we have these new prints that are going to be coming out. If we unlock this, everyone's going to get these prints for free, and on top of that, everyone gets to Art Direct Evermind #5. So I'm super excited to get the team's involvement in all this. Even the community, I think, it's a free bonus gift. So why not? These prints will be a one-time print run. We're not going to print anymore, and it'll be in your hands only as soon as we hit 40K. So we're almost there, guys. Thank you so much.
Almost there, guys. Let's get these guys, if you're in the chat, if you're watching, catching up, let's try to get them to 40. Let's see if we can get there. Go support this. You can go down here. You can give Sean his $2 for his autograph right here in this signature area. One of these tiers is a signature. There you go. You can go to here. You go. You can get a CGC signature series. We don't do CBCS over here. We only do CGC. You can give Sean his buy him a coffee and get him to sign the book. Support this thing. Because it's a good project. And, before we get into the next topic, I still want to talk NYCC recap here, what you guys thought about some of the stuff and talk about some of these variants that are hot coming out of the con. You guys would see, man, for some of the prices of this stuff for a foil cover, you could get yourself a full on story here, for cheaper than that. So just something to consider, But very, very cool. We'll see how it goes. 2 hours to go. Almost there at the finish line. Almost there.
Speaking of variants, here's one of them.
There it is.
The Cyclops
foil cover here. Well, let's go into this. I pulled up good old eBay here coming out of NYCC. The story going into NYCC was New York Foil Con. I was joking around about that and stuff. And, I think it was, from what I gather, it's all in good fun. I'm teasing here. It was a good show. I think people made some good sales and had a lot of good books that came out of that con. Maybe some of them were foil heavy, but now we're on the other side. This is the week after.
Yeah.
We're really starting to see the secondary market move on some of this stuff, and it's interesting to see which ones are the hot ones, so to speak. We haven't quite gotten our cover price lists and things of that nature, but so it'll be interesting to really get the confirmation. But I don't know. Did you guys have any comics and stuff, or anyone in the chat? Did you guys pick up any of these sort of foil NYCC stuff? Or I guess Sean, you were in Artist Alley, but maybe Carl or Josh, did you feel any of the retail variants or pay attention to any of this stuff? What were your thoughts on it?
Josh could talk about what I got for him a little bit.
Yeah, so I was looking through the list maybe the day before, and there's a lot of cool ones, but the one that really popped out to me was the Star Wars Yoda variant for the new Shadow of
this one, right?
Yeah, this one, Shadow of Starlight. So I asked Carl, because I wasn't there. I'm like, Carl, if you see these, I want these. I just I love that the white variant there, the black white virgin. I was like, that's cool. I'll put that in my collection. That can stay on the wall forever. Be a huge Star Wars fan, so no problem with that one. And that's really kind of what is going on with I feel like these more recent cons is they print so many different variants and so many different retail variants that one of them is going to hit with everybody. There's something for everyone. There's always it's such a smorgasbord of different covers that are cool and whatnot, but maybe 98% of them aren't for you, but 2% of them are, and they're going to hit you right where you want it.
Yeah. It's funny, the Star Wars stuff, I don't know if Star Wars has just always been popular or whatever, but I feel like even in just my few years doing the YouTube channel, there's always a wave of Star Wars or whatever. But I feel like right now the Star Wars variants are almost more popular than they've ever been. I don't know why.
For sure.
And that's just sort of a vibe check of my own feeling, but I don't know if that's actually true. It just feels like Star Wars has gotten maybe hot, maybe Ahsoka. People like that show. I don't know.
I think the shows always help. It's almost like merch to the shows, because when I do talk to comic retailers, they say Marvel is very strategic on when every movie comes out or when Star Wars episode comes out.
Yeah.
What the newsstands with the latest book from that title. But when I think about Star Wars, I always think about the Dark Horse run. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but I think it was Dark Empire. They had these foil variants on QVC, and they were selling them like packets. And I forgot how much they were, but they were really expensive. I remember I bought those variants and had to sit on them forever before they were worth anything, because they took a tank with the rest of the 90s books. But that was always my impression of Star Wars. And then ever since then, I don't feel like I gravitated to any Star Wars books until maybe more recently when some of the TV titles came out. But Ahsoka's nice, so I could see why people are into it. Yeah.
I have to give a quick shout out to Comic Journey, friend of the channel here. I got a great Batman sketch from Sean. So do you remember doing that? Some Batman sketches?
Well, it's one of the most popular requests. So I do a lot of those. So yeah, I mean,
no, Sean, you're supposed to say of course, I remember that specific one.
Yeah. I always put a lot of backgrounds in mine. So if I do a headshot of Batman, you still get an entire Gotham City in the background. So I'm sure you got one of those. So
nice. This one is interesting. Carl, do you know about this?
I do.
The Superior Spider-Man one here with Vivi?
Superior Spider-Man, I don't know. I know about the one above that.
Yes. Yeah, well, these two there's some relation. So this is Vivi. If you guys are Vivi fans, they do the digital collectibles. They released their first comic book. I'm not really I didn't quite understand if this is a limited thing, this was just an open order or what it was, but they had the Spider-Man cover. And this one, I mean, slash price of $150. I don't know if that's high or low or what it was, but still, I mean, 3 figures seems like a lot. And then there was this one here, The Addiction, a friend of the channel, Vincent Zerzolo, who, friends of Sean, and we've talked to him many times here. He runs Comic Connect. This was his comic book project, and they did a partnership with Vivi. So,
yeah,
interesting that Vivi is sort of like digging into this space a little bit. And what do you think, Carl, about all this stuff?
I think it's about time. I myself dabbled in VV for a bit, and when I was there, I had the opportunity to talk to some of the pretty big collectors. They would call the whales. And from what I learned from them, what's been interesting about VV is many of them may have started digitally on VV, but then it actually brought them into the comic book shop. So because of VV, they started buying physical books. And so I thought it was a really good narrative as to VV's ability to community build and also bring people into physical. So I'm pretty sure they're a very data-driven company, being more of a tech company than anything else. So they must have seen an opportunity to start releasing their own books. And so they did. And if you look at their ability to retain value, it actually means a lot. It means there's a lot more demand than there is supply. So I do feel like VV's going down the right path, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
Yeah, I'd be curious what their sort of like vision is, or maybe even Vincent would be able to shine some light on this, like what the vision is doing with because this is Vincent's independent book, but doing a VV kind of branded collab here. Like, I wonder what the opportunity, where they see the opportunity in sort of working with each other on this. I mean, I'm sure there is. I mean, strength in numbers, but it's kind of an interesting thing that they're like VV's trying to do this. Like, do they want to be their own publisher? Do they want to dabble outside of, I guess, IPs that, everything that they have is licensed IP. So, maybe they want to not marry themselves too hard to that sort of thing.
Just by happenstance, I was probably one of the last guys Vincent spoke to on the way to the airport on this vacation. And I asked him a lot about addiction. And I think for him, it's the way he explained it, is more of a multimedia approach. And so beyond Vivi, he's a very successful businessman, and so he understands what it means to exploit his IP, and I think he's fully doing that. I think it's really smart. So I think beyond Vivi, I think he is looking at other channels to further what he's doing in the space. And then, but speaking of exclusives, I wish I grabbed one of those foil Transformers.
Oh yeah,
around. That's freaking awesome.
This for sure. Oh, well, I was going to quickly say this is one of the other Star Wars books. This Ahsoka one, Adi Granov, is one that was pretty hot going in, and maybe looks like it still has some demand. But yeah, this Transformers foil. Everyone is excited about Transformers right now.
I got something on the trip. So I got this from I got the Ashcan remarked version.
Let's see that. Wait.
I don't know if you can see it on my screen or not.
Oh, we're gonna.
Can you guys see it?
Oh yeah.
I got the remarked version. I'm pretty happy about. I don't really collect slabs anymore, but when this was offered on a Felix comic art drop, I had to try to grab one. And then the other favorite I got was this guy here.
Oh yeah.
A full-on Daniel Warren Johnson remark. So I won this at a charity auction. So it was the night before, and man, that place was a place for deals because you were getting stuff like probably like 10 to 20% of what they cost on the market. So Mickey, maybe you could join me next year at the charity auction because I think you'll find stuff you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that Daniel Warren Johnson one with Transformers is super hot. Ever since the Robert Kirkman came out with this thing called Void Rivals, and I guess they're doing a Hasbro shared universe and trying to redo this brand and IP, and Daniel Warren Johnson is drawing it. So everyone's, on the Transformers hype train, and it's been like that for a few months now. Like, I mean, it's been able to sustain its hype, even going into this. And this is one of the covers right here that was really hot. I mean, 14 bids, $85. I'm assuming this was maybe like a $25 variant.
Yeah, I would want one. Oh man, I wish I saw someone have one their own, and I was like, "Where'd you get that?" Oh, their toy sold out. I was like, "Oh man." Yeah, that's a nice one.
It's funny. I don't know how you guys feel. Like, what is up with this foil? Like, sometimes the foil like has this like muted look. Like it.
Yeah,
It-
this one's very muted actually. I
It's
actually
like
like this better. I actually like this better, to be honest.
Oh, you do? I
I
actually
do.
don't like it because
Oh,
I
you
feel
like
like
it chromium. Like it very chromy.
yeah, maybe that's what it is. I like chromium, not foil. Like
Yeah.
because I want it to pop out.
I like the texture for sure. Yo, Bronze Age. Just
Oh, we
popped
got
up.
Bronze in the chat. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Hey, Swag, Sean, Carl, Josh, chat. Hope everyone is doing well and best of luck on the strong finish of
Thanks
Evermind.
to you, man. It's been awesome help.
Thank you, Bronze Age nerd.
Yeah. But this one was pretty hot out there. I don't know, Sean, have you drawn Transformers? I feel like you would do a good good Optimus Prime. You got your robot Iron Man angles on point.
Yeah, I did many years ago. I did a few Transformers covers, but it really is kind of like a insiders type thing. Like you really have to know Transformers. So depending on your age, when you're a kid, you either are a fan of Transformers or GI Joe. And I think I fall more in the GI Joe category, and so I don't really know Transformers as well. So you really have to know it inside and out and be a real fan, because I think people can tell. I mean, because there's so many idiosyncrasies in how you do the armor. But yeah, I love the characters. I mean, they're really really cool. I think the way they look in comics and in some of the CG animated stuff, they look really good. The movies, though, I think the way that it looks like a whole bunch of junk. I think this is something that really works. I love it when something works best in comics. Kind of really stick it to the movies.
Yeah, I think the Michael Bay movies that doing the design, the non G1 as you would call it, designs that were more like I guess like a kind of more anime inspired robot designs, things like that. I think that was a big mistake. Like just stick to the blocky forms. Makes it too hard to follow.
I gotta say though, I love Transformers, but not this version. I'm a huge fan of the Beast Wars. So if this was like a Beast Wars thing, I'd be like so all over it. But I got commend Skybound. I mean they're killing it with kind of teasing, building his universe, and they're really drawing this out. And I don't know if anyone else could have done it better.
Yeah, I mean you can see $95. I think this is probably going to be one of the ones that is on our various hot lists that I'm sure will come out later today. Here's another one here. Like again, this is just a search for NYCC exclusive sold, and you can see this book popping up many times. This one is funny to me. Here is my logo foil right here.
Oh, this one I was just like, oh man, this is a terrible cover. In my opinion.
Random. What is this? Who put this out? Is this DC?
I don't know, but for the low price of $109, sold, you can actually picked up. You can get this Superman foil.
I'm surprised there isn't more stuff from Boom, because Boom has done like a really, they've been pretty aggressive in the variant cover space. So the whole like something is killing children, like that franchise have gone, maybe varianted out. Berserker definitely like variant frenzy. But yeah, I'm surprised I don't see more Boom stuff here.
Yeah. There's this one right here. This Spawn Todd McFarlane one. They gave this out at a panel specifically to Spawn updates signed by Todd. I think it's fairly limited, like a couple hundred, but slash price of $400 right there. So there you go. Just go to a panel, get a free comic book, sell it on eBay, pay for your ticket. That's what
this is going to be one of the ones that's going to stand out and hold over time.
Oh yeah.
I think there's 250 of these.
A nice cover.
And it's a nice cover, and it's signed by Todd.
Yeah, he said something to the effect. I think he had a little video, and Todd McFarlane, he talks a lot about this, or he understands the collector side of this. Like one of his things was like, okay, we're going to have 250 of this stuff. I'm going to sign it. And this will be the only time I ever sign this comic in red. So he just understands like, hey, maybe we'll make another version of this. Maybe there will be more. Maybe I'll sign it again. But you'll know that anytime you see the red ink, that's the NYCC one. So he thinks a lot about these little like collector-y things and how to think about census and keep it rare and all that stuff, which I think is smart.
He does. He's super smart with that stuff. I mean, he's bona fide like expert salesman for sure.
Yeah. This Musk versus Zuck one, this was a San Diego Comic-Con book that this is actually done by Complete AI was this book done. So,
That's
but
hilarious.
I really want one. I really want one of these, to be honest.
yeah, well, it's funny.
I love it.
It's by this guy Television, and I think he's doing AI in a way that I think is a cool and good way to do it. Where one, he's being straight up about it, like he's just saying, "Hey, this is AI. Like this is what I'm doing," and he's trying to push the medium as much as possible. And I think the process still takes a lot of work. I mean, Sean, you can see the fingers don't look totally messed up, so
they're in boxing gloves.
Yeah, he's trying to do it and stuff, but it's a funny kind of like a Mad magazine sort of a gag, or it takes you back to some like the Mad stuff where you're playing off of the pop cultural things. But he had this at San Diego Comic-Con, and then they brought it again to NYCC, and looks like this one's a little bit cheaper than the San Diego one. I think the San Diego one was in the hundreds of dollars of range here. Now this is, I think, maybe the hottest as far as secondary market value, but this is a American Psycho #1.
Huh.
And it's a landscape version of the comic book, so you got to turn it sideways. But there you see the Patrick Bateman card with a little bit of blood on it.
That's
and just
hilarious.
kind of playing up the American Psycho. So I guess this was really an American Psycho comic book. I'm not actually sure who the publisher was, but pretty funny, pretty cool. They did this thing, and here you have a metal one. Here's the regular cover, but yeah, $350 sold for these guys.
What a great licensing play. Yeah, IP and run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one's really cool. The only my only real issue with this one is like, if you are a person who likes to get your books graded, what does this do for your OCD?
Oh yeah, it's terrible. You got to turn the slab sideways. I'll
True.
say
Of
of all the gimmick things that came out in the 90s, the landscape horizontal comic books, those were the worst. Like, put all the foil, put all the die cut, glow in the dark. I'm down with that, but if you have to make me turn the comic book sideways, I'm not a fan.
Massive Publishing came out with American Psycho. Thanks, Bronze Age.
Massive is killing it. I mean, Massive's doing great work because they're also doing, they're also working their first Kickstarter with Sean Gordon Murphy and the Zorro campaign, and that's kind of killing it too. So Massive is just coming out in force. So very similar to TV. If you think about it, Massive was also a digital. I mean, Whatnot is also a digital platform. They found an opportunity to go physical, and now they launched a publishing company. Putting out some books. And so it's very similar. You're seeing like digital moving into physical in a really aggressive way.
Well, it's almost interesting. It's like a lot of these companies are reverse engineering their publishing, right? Where it's from VV to, like you said, Massive Whatnot to, can't think of some of the others, but like if you already, this is something I said, I think in the, maybe it was the last stream where I was kind of was a little flippant about it, but to me, I was always like, if you're a retailer who makes variant covers and you do the whole game where you like go to NYCC and you hire an artist to do a variant and you put your logo on it and do the whole thing, and you already have the audience that you are selling it to, and you already are doing all that work and fulfillment and all that. It's like, why not just make your own comics at that point? I mean, like, what do you need to latch on to, or what do you need to give up some percentage to, say, Marvel with? Now, I understand that making your own IP is completely different, and you get a lot of brand equity automatically if you're just selling a Zatanna or you're selling a Spider-Man that's totally different. But I don't know. It's maybe not a bad idea for a lot of these companies that are already doing that. It takes a lot of work, but you can see the success with things like VV and Whatnot having having these platforms already and then like reverse engineering, like publishing into that.
What is that Cobra Commander one?
Oh yeah, this is I don't know. It's maybe someone in the chat knows. Duke 1 Ashcan Cobra spot foil exclusive, Skybound. So
is that a big Energon panel? I wonder if it's something they gave out there or sold there. Joshua Williamson, he's writing a ton of stuff. He's also writing the whole Batman Robin run, so he's been doing very well there. So this is interesting. I didn't know about that. See, there's so many track. That's the craziest.
I'm glad that Bronze is here. You had to attend the Energon panel to get it, and the Duke one. Got it. So yeah, you have a lot of these like it's almost like what do you call it? Like the Comic-Con what is it when you do a survivor hunt? What is that called again?
Scavenger hunt.
Scavenger hunt.
Yeah, scavenger hunt. There you go. When you just do a scavenger hunt, you got to attend the panels, and then you get the exclusive book, and then you get to sell it on eBay. That's what makes them hard to pick up.
I think it's a much more interesting approach to doing, variant covers rather than just, hey, we made a retail variant. It's got my comic shop's name on it. You can get it at the Comic-Con for this much money. Whereas, like, if you really want to promote your IP and your book or whatever, like, have a panel, make people come to it, listen, get a free variant like this, and then, you've got them kind of invested into the story or maybe the art or whatever. They get something cool out of it. Then maybe they go out there and subscribe to the first 6 issues or whatever. Yeah.
It's not a bad, like you said, it's not a bad idea. And it's actually ironically speaking, bad idea. Kind of did the same thing, right? They have their like party, it's San Diego, and then that's where the comic book comes from. And then those people who have it are now the ones that sell it off here. So yeah, it's like a adding an exclusiveness on top of an exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Well, in New York, they actually did a scavenger hunt. They had people put on like marathon bibs, and they basically were marathon bibs with Bad Idea on it, and then they had to run around and run a bunch of errands in order to come back to collect that variant. So I thought that was a pretty good idea, because I saw a few people running around with Bad Idea, and they're all in a hurry, sweaty, and trying to get to where they get. And, if that's the it's a billboard, it's definitely a billboard for the brand.
Yeah, well, you can see here again. Yeah, so I think this Duke and Cobra Commander one, this is 100% going to show up on hot lists. Here you see the Patrick Bateman one again. It's going to show up again, the Transformers one. So these seems to be the ones that are going to stand out for sure. This VV one that we keep seeing with their Spider-Man. Some other ones. So I think these are the ones, I mean, a lot of these other stuff, some of the foil logos and reprints of facsimiles. I don't know if these are going to have the same demand out there, but yeah, it's like the exclusive scavenger hunt exclusive ones, I think, are the ones that really stand out.
I'm really surprised that we're not seeing any of the like 100 different Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle variants that were at New York Comic Con, especially the one that really stood out to me. There were some really cool ones. They did like this sport, like a sport 4-pack where it was like Michael on one, Donatello on one. And the Michelangelo one is literally the Michael Jordan iconic slam dunk from the free throw line. And it's really cool. Like, I'm surprised I'm not seeing that one here. I thought that one would have done really awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I mean, this is just most recent sold on eBay.
Sure.
So there's no science to this. We're just kind of scrubbing through and seeing what covers keep popping up. But yeah, it didn't seem like we saw too many Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones so far.
There's one.
Oh, there's one. This is one, right? John Jiang. Yeah, this is one I saw kind of being advertised and stuff. So interesting, very cool. Some of these ones, the cream rising to the top in some kind of way. This Todd McFarlane one, once again, Slash price $600. I wonder. So pretty expensive overall. Let's see what Reef says
Spawn
here.
collectors, man, they're willing to pay. They shill it out.
They don't mess around. They don't mess around for sure.
Nope. Gotta have it.
Well, that's what Reef says. The TMNT collectors not selling those. You know, maybe they're
True. Yeah.
they
That's a
got
good
the,
point.
you know,
That's a good point. Also, I'm
TMNT,
not seeing
they
that.
got-
I'm not seeing my Yoda cover in here either. So
yeah.
Maybe there's some hardcore. I mean, it's funny because when I got it for you, Josh, they said they only had like 20 sets left. So I don't think they had that much. And that was Thursday.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they may only print maybe 50. I'm guessing 50 sets of those things.
Diamond hands for TMNT for sure. You know?
Not Transformers though. It's interesting because Transformers is definitely one of those with a very wide audience. But
Yeah.
I actually don't know how deep the audience is when it comes to loyalty. And maybe printing wise, they printed way more than a lot of these other ones. But you know, it's getting sell through. Oh, that Invincible looks kind of cool too. I saw that. I totally forgot to go get one.
Which one? Oh, Invincible.
Yeah, it's Otley's own special. I think Otley actually had his own variants, which I thought was kind of cool. Sean, we should do your own variants for Evermind. That's a great idea.
Yeah, or at least you can do some sketch covers or stuff, something like that. That'd be kind of a cool thing to have. But
I think that was the purpose. Actually, really smart. They actually kind of did like a one up from a typical sketch cover by having Invincible on the cover.
Yeah, I don't know. For me personally, a lot of the stuff I got paper hands with a lot of this stuff. I just sell the stuff right away.
Yeah.
As Department of Truth #1, this one's kind of interesting one. A lot of Department of Truth talk and movement because some movement with their Netflix show or streaming show, getting some discussion. So, you know, the Power Girl stuff, not as much movement here, you know. But yeah, interesting to see that. Just kind of a recap of some of the New York Comic Con exclusives. We'll see if some of these end up getting put on the hot list. I do think that the Transformers one and the G.I. Joe one will move a lot. But question of the morning is still, are we going to get Evermind on the hot list here, guys? 355 backers. We got a little bit of an uptick right there. $38,500, $1,500 away from 40,000.
Very impressive. I mean, thank you to the community because I think when Sean and I was getting into New York Comic Con, we were still hovering around 29K, and so within this week, I think we jumped. And so, you know, hopefully we could do. I definitely want to get these exclusive prints out to everyone. So hopefully we could get another 1,500 or so in there, so we could hit that 40K third stretch goal. And personally, be pretty happy. And there may be some surprises as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell me a little bit from a collector's perspective. If there's a comic out there like Bone or this kickstarting and Sean Gordon Murphy's Zorro, those kind of go through the roof, and a whole bunch of them are out there. So what is the equivalent in stocks? They have that thing called buying the dip. You want to get in at a point when it's really low or unknown, and then you have to look at the fundamentals, whether it's going to go to the moon or not. So with those guys, I mean, they have a proven track record. They have a lot of Kickstarters on them, or a lot of product out there. So you kind of know what you're in for. You get it because it's a great story, great art. But from a collector standpoint, what is the equivalent of buying the dip? And is this something that would be like buying the dip? Because me as a writer is not really well known yet, and not as in terms of the art and create your own stuff. It's kind of very new. So I guess you have to look at whether this has the potential to go upward, and then you be the one of the 305 people who got it from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, it's the type of thing where, like, if your worry or your concern is like, okay, secondary market, like what can I do? A lot of people buy these comics, like, we just talked about Department of Truth #1. Like when that first came out, it was like, oh, this feels like a comic that would be turned into a Netflix show, and so a lot of people buy this stuff on that idea. And I'm definitely, we all know it's a long road to get it to that point, but like you're saying with the stock stuff, like I put value on the sort of the CEO, right? Like, people bet on the CEO. It's like, okay, they're going to take this company all the way. Does this have the legs? And I think that, yeah, if you learn about the people involved in this, and I see names like Daniel Wu, and I know Carl's background and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, like maybe this is going to go all the way, maybe this has that chance, so that is definitely an element that people use as far as like when they play this game, if they're in this game.
Definitely want to shout out Bronze, who just pledged and got us another step closer to that stretch goal.
Cool.
All right.
So close.
Very, very close.
Can I share another pickup? Oh, actually, let's talk about this. My buddy actually picked this up.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop it off to him, I think, later today. But I actually really liked it. When I picked it up, I was like, wow, Peach Momoko. I've never seen like a sketch cover from her before, but I did see like a few covers from her at the charity auction. And I like this way better than the covers I saw there. No, nothing against those covers, but I felt like she designed those as more like graphic design type covers. But this one just felt like there was so much story in it. And that's why I loved it. And it felt, obviously Ashoka had like a lot of influence from design from the Japanese kind of like imperial era, and so it's kind of cool how she kind of blended that into the background as well. So I really like this one.
Yeah, it's very Peach Momoko for sure has her huge following, and yeah, this is definitely a very, very cool one. Actually, this kind of reminded me, and I brought this up, Carl, because I was gonna bring it up with you. You guys have some original art in your campaign. I don't know if there's still any tiers left for original art in Evermind, but Sean, you're giving away some of it. But I wanted to shout out Red Hood Comics here, a good comic book dealer out there. One day I'm going to get him on my channel to talk to. He deals in vintage stuff, big books, that whole thing. But he actually picked this up. Let me see if I can find the Vincent Zerzola video here. At Comic Connect. I thought that this was really cool. His company is named Red Hood, and he ended up, see how long it takes to get there, but he ended up acquiring the original art for, what is it called? Detective Comics. I'm losing my streak here, Craig, guys. The first appearance of Red Hood, that Golden Age book.
What? That's a great piece. I'm like, I gotta see this.
Yeah, let me.
It's about halfway through. I watched it this morning, so it's going to be a little while.
Yeah, we'll
get like a big reveal. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he worked it out on the. I guess they worked it on the back end. I'm not sure what. I don't think he disclosed what he paid for it, but I have to imagine it's like easily in the high six figures. Yeah, let's see. Well, I'm just gonna let it play in the background, but you guys will. Eventually see it unveiled. But
first appearance page wasn't a thing, but it's become a thing over the last, I would say, like couple years, because I've been collecting comic art since 2017 and didn't really get that kind of chatter until the last couple years, where now first appearance pages are a really big thing and people are going after them and they're demanding much higher prices. I think ever since the first appearance of Spider-Man's black costume from Secret Wars, I paid for Mike Zeck sold for like $3 million. I think that definitely established this whole first appearance importance in the comic art diaspora. So it's been pretty interesting there.
Yeah, but even cover is still king, right? In original art, like even more than like an interior first appearance panel.
Yes,
like typically speaking, the cover is going to sell for the most.
Yeah. So if like interior pages are average like $200 for a particular book, I think the cover typically is 20x of that. So it'd be like $4,000 for a cover. So it's definitely a big difference. So 20x, sorry about that. 20x of that. And so it's a pretty big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the interesting, I guess maybe headline idea that I would throw out to you, Carl, maybe you can take this ball and run with it, is it's like, here you have Red Hood, huge comic book dealer. It's got massive comics in the 6-figure range and stuff, but his grail is the original art. And I just wonder if it's like, you know, all roads, I think, for collectors eventually lead to this chase of original art, right? Because it's like, you got to have the exclusive. You know, we're here talking about New York Comic Con exclusives, and there's nothing more exclusive than, there you go, one of one pieces, right?
Oh, nice. Is that the cover of
it? Yeah, it's the cover. I'll show you guys pictures close up, but I wanted to get that moment where he pulled it off here, and this is his ultimate grail. I mean, his whole company is named after this character.
Nice.
This is already a super expensive Golden Age comic. I mean, like, across all grades, like, it's very rare, it's so expensive, and then just picking up the original art. So there was the reveal, but yeah, let me see. This cover
Golden
right here.
Wow, that's freaking crazy. I didn't hear about this. I mean, it's amazing because, you know, first of all, I collect a lot of modern age art. I've only recently more dove deeper into some of the like Bronze Age stuff, but going deep into Golden Age, yeah, this is definitely very high on the 6-figure mark, because, you know, to grab this is the one of one where, you know, the cover was printed from, and, you know, you're just not gonna find this. This is great.
Yeah, Detective Comics 168. Let's just get a little
amazing.
You know what's really funny about that video reveal is right after they do that, the one guy proposes to his girlfriend.
Yeah, he got it.
Yeah,
the guy who got it, Rob, he ended up proposing as well. So it was a double big day for him. So, you know, huge congratulations to Rob. Yeah, so here you see, you know,
I'm not now. If she said yes, you know, she's not marrying him for his money.
That's for the Red Hood.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have any money anymore because he just spent it all on an original art page. Here, yeah, Detective Comics 168, 1951, first appearance of Red Hood. So this is that cover. Grail comic book for a lot of collectors. So like a 5.0, 16,800. 3.0, 8,400. So it's pretty much a 5-figure comic, no matter what grade you're at. And then there's 189 total on the census. So yeah, he just walked away with the original art cover right there.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's beautiful. And it's really interesting because, like, if you think about, you know, let's do some quick comparison between like a Golden Age or like a very popular 90s comic. If you think about this, and I would say the Spidey first appearance of Venom's costume, the black costume, is $3 million, but that's almost in like the Bronze Age, right? But then you also have another major sale that happened, and this is private, and this is just hearsay, so don't quote me on the facts on this one. But this, and most people know it's this generally the price. But X-Men #1, the 4 fold-out covers by Jim Lee.
Yes, right.
It's a very, like, you know, modern book. Very popular book, sold 8 million copies. That, I think, went for around 3.5 million for the set. So it's interesting, kind of like, you know, seeing like the variation. Because I feel like if you objectively, you would think a historic, you know, first appearance Golden Age cover like this would sell for more. But those two things, just because pure popularity, you know, demanded way more than
yeah. Well, I guess that is one of the interesting and cool things about original art, because, like, you know, like, this is incredible piece. He's got this thing, but as we already said, there's only 183 comics, so it's like the rarity step from like having the comic to like owning the original art, the gap isn't as big as if you like there's like tens and tens of thousands of Amazing Spider-Man 300, but if you can have the original art page, like, you get to flex on that massive pool of people who know that book and love it. So it almost is like the Copper Age, like, you know, some of those like Spider-Man, like Secret Wars and stuff, like those might be the most expensive, because the people who know of them are like, it's a bigger pool.
I'll also say what's interesting about the way this reveal happened is it really shows like a difference between, you know, buying a comic book versus buying original art, because there's a very specific reason why they revealed it this way. It's because when you buy like a comic book, I don't know if you guys listen to Rob Liefeld's podcast, but he's been doing this like 3-part series NYCC recap where he was hunting for a Hulk 181, a high grade one. So he's talking about it. He's put the word out. He's hunting for it. People are offering to him for a good deal. When it comes to buying original comic art, something like this is totally different. You actually don't tell anyone. You try to work the deal out as low key as possible, because what you don't want to do is all of a sudden reveal these things for sale. Then all of these people are the woodworks. And so I think this deal was done, very hush hush until this moment, because the deal's already closed. Otherwise, it would probably have, gone on like an auction block and, got driven up and whatnot. And that's usually what Heritage is there to do, is to drive up the value before, the hype before, it hits the market. So it's pretty interesting how the buying behavior is very different.
Yeah, I think you're totally right with like how it worked, because even in the video when they did the unveil and stuff, they were talking about how like Vincent was saying, how Rob had told him that he's like, hey, if you can ever find this or whatever, like I'd love to get in the mix or throw my name in the hat or whatever it is for it. And so that's one of the things, like this is where you call up a guy like Vince and you tell him like what you're going after, and you guys try to work it out and not explain anything, because like you said, you get the vultures that come in if all of a sudden they know that this is up for sale.
Speculators.
You get people will overbid you.
Yeah, for sure.
But pretty cool to see this. I just think it's an interesting thing, as comic collectors and stuff, just all roads eventually lead to maybe original art, or maybe not all roads, but I feel like a lot of people end up going this route, or like you start to really get into it, and maybe you start to get into like oil paintings and things like that, and then eventually you start collecting fine art and like Renaissance stuff, and you start to have that appreciation.
Going after those Picassos. But I've had many stories of people selling all their slabs to buy original art, and I think it's for that reason. You kind of upgrade over time, because once you hold like a piece of original art in your hand, like there's just something really special about it. It kind of comes alive and it makes the pages real, right? And then I think Comic Journey also talked a little bit about how he's all into art. I pay a little more for the artist to do remark or sketches rather than just signature.
Right.
I can relate, because I would say like maybe I only have like 2 or 3 boxes of like CGC graded books, but then recently, ever since I got this remark, and like I was at the let me try to show what I got at the Alex Ross booth, and my friend was having me buy him that X-Men one, and I saw the guy ahead of me waiting for a long time. I don't know what he was waiting for, and then the lady finally brought these two, this Batman 135 Joker variant, and it was signed by Alex Ross, and they only had the girl brought 2, and the guy, I'll take one. And then I was like, how many more do you guys have left? And then she's like, this is the last one. And I was like, oh, and I just had to buy it. And so like then I put these 2, the Darren Warren Johnson and this one, into my CGC box, and I see the 2 little yellow labels, and my OCD just started like running, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta sell all my CGCs and only collect yellow labels,
gold labels.
the gold labels. And so it's such a bad thing, but it's the truth. It's like your brain starts upgrading because you start wanting to consolidate your collection up, but then what happens though is then the liquidity goes way down, because your market size and reach is smaller, so it's pretty interesting in the mind of a collector, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the trap. Going back to the topic at hand, once you get a CBCS 10.0, you can't be having 9.8s next to your 10.0s.
That's weird.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're gonna be on that chase and that train, and it'll be really interesting to see. Like I think, like you said, just all your modern books will have to be sent in. Like I gotta get that 10. I gotta get that 10 chase. So maybe they're onto something there. But congrats again to Rob. I had to shout out this original art thing.
Congrats, Rob. My God.
I think I'll have to do a little more original art content at some point.
You should cover this because I don't know if a lot of people knew about it. I think this is a really good moment, especially like a place to connect the two worlds.
Yeah. Well, I have something that to show off and share. Some art stuff eventually when I get around to making a video for them. So I figured I could talk about this as well. So yeah, I'll probably do that. But here in the stream, we're getting a little bit of a preview of that.
Speaking of a show and tell, could we share some of Sean's artwork that folks could possibly get during this Kickstarter run? Because I'm a huge fan of art, and I think a lot of folks in the stream and maybe your friends may appreciate this. But tiers 6 and 7, I know we're scrolling up a little higher into the mix, but tier 6, we called it the Comic Art Fans Bundle. We had the blessings of Bill Cox over at Comic Art Fans, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're able to acquire Sean's library of existing pages, from all those different titles, and it was awesome where we could actually package this in with the books of Evermind in itself. So obviously they're very limited. There's roughly 89 left, and so I would love to show some of those. And then the second one, actually, we could show tier 7 as well. Tier 7 is actually the Marvel Design Vault, and I'll let Sean speak on more of the Marvel Design stuff once you pull them up, Mickey. But this is probably one of my favorites because I think there's only 9 left of these, and these were acquired actually from the Marvel Studios franchise group, which had basically Sean worked for during his time off from comics. And so we should definitely pull those up and really show folks would be getting.
Are they in the Kickstarter here in the preview somewhere?
Oh, I think I shared the Google Drive with you.
Oh, okay.
Google Drive. Yeah, one says like Marvel Design and one says Vault Premium.
Yes,
maybe you put it in the chat if you could again.
For those design things, when I was working at Marvel, a lot of times you can go for like sometimes several months between books where there's nothing to do. So I worked for Marvel's Creative Services division, and they thought that I had a good style for the style guides because back then I was drawing kind of like middle of the road, kind of like realistic people. So they wanted to standardize the look of all their characters, and there's a ton of characters, so it was a ton of work. And I would do the turnarounds, the front, side, and back view, and they would scrutinize like the height of his boots and how wide the gauntlets are and stuff like that, and all the tools and weapons they typically carry. And that was the standard that they would send out to all the companies they licensed to, and even the artists, so that you might have an artist like Humberto Ramos who has a style that's really out there. They want to make sure that even though the style is out there, that it still is on brand with the approved look. And that was just that whole. I think Marvel at one point had this agency come in and said like your branding is all over the place. You got too many different logos and you have too many characters all look very different. Everyone had a different style, so it was just an attempt to kind of streamline everything. So I did that for a good long time. I don't know how many I did, but tons of them, and they're just out there in the wild. Well, they were out there in the wild, and then now they're all kind of collected into one place. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in there in terms of it's indicative of a certain era of Marvel, and that's how the characters looked at that time. So I thought it was a real. The fact that they chose me to do it just means that that they trusted that I could draw realistically, and then
I wish there was a way to show this better on the Kickstarter, but these are and when you look at them, like the draftsmanship is so super clean.
Is that a surfboard? Okay.
Those are like Silver surfboard here. Yeah. Well, it's like these are so important. When I've worked for Wizards of the Coast or Magic the Gathering and things like that, or Riot Games and League of Legends, like you have to have all these like very, very defined, like what makes Cyclops, those types of things. Because like you said, when you license it to a video game company or you license it out to, pajama pants. You know, whoever ends up doing those designs has to pull from something. Yeah, I love the Doc Ock. I like it when Doc Ock it has a little more meat on them. You know.
Yeah, it's really funny too because our friend Dominic Glover, who's a pretty big like convention artist. I remember when we met him on Clubhouse during like the pandemic, and he was working for Marvel, doing a bunch of like posters and stuff for their like collectible art space. When he found out that I was working with Sean, he's like, "Oh my gosh, Sean, he's a legend." Because when I work for Marvel, they give me these character references. Sean Chen's name is all over them, and so I didn't really know what he's talking about. But when Sean busted these out for this Kickstarter, I was like, "Holy crap! That's exactly what he's talking about—the evergreen versions of these characters."
You know, one cool thing is that these, for the most part, don't get seen by the public. But then after a while, they had me draw just the kind of like the clip art that you would see if you go to Party City or you go buy a Marvel lunchbox. They would actually use the artwork, so it's not just like them standing around, but they would have me draw like a typical scene of you know, they would make and also they would have like maybe a Doc Ock in an action pose and Spider-Man in an action pose, and I also would draw different backgrounds so they can kind of mix and match and put things together and create different licensed stuff. So actually, a lot of the stuff that I did toward the later end of it was actually produced a lot. So it's still a lot of times in use today. If you like walk around in Walmart, you'll see merchandise with some of the artwork I did.
That's pretty awesome.
So I'm gonna ask us to go through this one more time once we hit the end, because I just invited all my comic art friends in the chats. So hopefully they join in the next 5 to 10 minutes. But I want them to hear Sean talking about this, because the journey about these references are so unique, because they did go to Sean because they trusted him with that level of stewardship. And so I do feel like, for me, like, this is probably my personal favorite tier of all the, I mean, this was awesome. Like freaking Rhino, dude. And so, you know, I do feel like there's only 9 left. So I definitely want to make sure our friends in the chat, as well as my friends in the comic art fans world, get first access to it.
Yeah. These are pretty awesome for sure.
So what was it like when you were designing it? Did they have separate references? Or like, what was the collaborative process like when you were putting these together?
Yeah, they would send me reference from a lot of the different artists, and they said, like, use these boots with this this top and this helmet, and I would turn it in, and they would actually scrutinize, like, well, his boots should be a little bit higher toward the knee and stuff like that, until they get it just perfect, and they will go through a whole committee of people who kind of greenlight it, and if it gets all the way through, then that's when they pay me, because that part is done, and then it's on to the next character. So the thing is, these things, I would thought that people wouldn't like them because they're not in action poses and there's no background, but surprisingly, people would actually chase after these. And I think because they kind of look good up on the wall. I mean, there are people, and yeah, it's kind of weird because they're very diagrammatic. I thought people just wouldn't get into it. So I kind of like gave them away for a song way back when. So it's nice to see them all back together again.
Yeah,
I think from like a collector standpoint, there's something that is just like very satisfying as these being sort of like the most sort of, and I say this in a good way, like the most standardized, like purest version of the character when you think of them, you know? And so there's something that's kind of nice about that. Like obviously the aesthetics of like him doing an action pose and all that stuff is all fun and games, but like, I don't know, it's like in the same way, you know, you collect the Marvel trading cards. There's something very nice about just like, oh, like here's just the character with their name and the stats and the ball. Yeah, this sort of has that feeling to me.
That Gambit, can we look at that Gambit real quick? Is there a reason they didn't put the code on him?
I think it has to do with a certain era of the X-Men. So it just might be a time when he didn't have his code, and also it could be that there's a second page with just with him on the coat, because the side view and the back view would just not really present properly if it's all covered up. And it's always tough because so many of these superheroes have capes. So when I do the back view, it was easy because I was draw like a sheet. But then to say, oh no, we need to see what he looks like underneath the cape. So I would do it separately.
Yeah, so right here, it's tier 7, Sean Chen's Marvel design art. Right there. if you're interested in some of this stuff. But yeah, it's definitely very cool. I'm glad that you didn't draw Gambit with a banana hammock on. You guys know about this banana hammock thing?
What is that? What is this banana hammock thing?
Oh my god, guys, we're gonna introduce Sean. I don't know if I should show you guys because once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Oh, is this for the swimsuit special?
No, it should have been. It should have been. All right, here we go.
Here it goes.
X-Men 266. Now this book, controversy here. Everyone in the chat, weigh in. Do you think that this is the first appearance or not? This is generally considered Gambit's first appearance, although it's arguable that it's not. But yeah, once I was pointed out that Gambit is wearing a banana hammock in this pose right here with his outfit.
I never saw it before.
You can't unsee it now.
Now I can't.
In the 90s?
This is X-Men 266. So yeah, this would have been 1991, I believe.
Hilarious.
Okay.
But yeah, like everyone just calls this the banana hammock cover.
Okay.
That's funny.
Is what he's wearing, and once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Oh no, it's so weird.
Well, that's the 90s for you, man. The 90s were kind of a low point in comics.
Yeah.
I was there, so I can say that. So
bad. Yeah, banana hammock explain. It's just there are people out there that just say it. It's they have the I don't know. It's maybe it's the texture. Like I don't know if this is supposed to be a part of his outfit as opposed to, I think when it was drawn, it kind of looks like this is something he's wearing over top of his jumpsuit, and that's kind of like what you sort of walk away with. But yeah, pretty funny imagery right there. It's also like Five Finger Punisher. This is another one that's kind of the once you see it, you can't unsee it. This famous
Five Fingers.
This famous Punisher cover right here, where he's shooting this bazooka, and in his right hand here, it's kind of like AI did this. So he's got his trigger finger with 4 fingers there, and then his thumb, in theory, would be behind. So he's got sort of an extra finger drawn on his hand.
All right, who's the artist responsible for that?
Let's see who did this one again. Klaus Janson or Jim Novak?
Yeah. Is it Sean? Do you think
Piers
it's because people are in such a hurry?
Klaus Janson.
Yeah, people are just like blasting through pages, and that's why, some people
I mean, in comics, especially for the big two, it's not the best work you can do. And in Evermind, I'm doing the best work I can do. But when Marvel and DC, it's the best you can do under the circumstances, and time is a huge factor. So,
that's cool.
Well, let's see here, guys. I mean, we've been streaming. We've been getting it done. We had 358 backers. We got 102 minutes to go. I don't know if we're going to be live during the finish, but
sorry, guys. I know we start at 10, but I don't know why it ends at noon. It's so strange.
Well, it always said 3 p.m. Thursday for me from the beginning.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, either way, we're getting that extra little hour there, but that's actually okay because if people watch this on the rewind, maybe they'll have just a little extra time to get in their bid before it's over. But before we totally wrap it up, I did want to just do some. Oh, there we go, 359. Look at that, guys.
Thank you.
$1,100 away, less than $10.50.
Oh my God, so close. Mickey, can we stream till we hit the 40?
Yeah, we can keep it going. We're just gonna keep it running, guys. It's like a marathon. It's the what do you call it? The telethons. From back in the day. You just got to keep it going. Keep it going.
Call a friend. Let's go. Get them in here.
Actually, let's look through some more art. There's a tier 7 and tier 6. If we could blast through the rest of the tier 7s real quick, so that whoever just joined, my comic art friends, can take a look. Then it would be great if we could jump into tier 6 to show some of the other pieces. Can we flip
these ones here or no?
Yeah, flip through these real quick, and then we'll go to the other.
Yeah, I just want to say I had the opportunity to hold these in my hand some of them, as well as some of the other tier from tier 6. And I don't have any original comic art. I'm not yet into that part of my end game. But I had like the shivers when I was holding these things. I was like, oh, I don't even want to like, look like flip through them because I'm worried I might damage them. And like, these are really, really special and they're very, very cool.
What's the size of these things?
Oh, these are all 11 by 17 in landscape format. And just so you know, like you can always tell if it's an original from me. If you flip it over, on the back, there's a lot of underdrawing. So I think people kind of, it's become a thing, kind of like a hallmark of my artwork. And people are kind of buying it because of it. Because when you flip it over, there's a big old mess on the back. And what it is I'm drawing on a light table so that what I do is I would draw it in reverse on the back side and kind of trace my underdrawing on the front side. And that keeps the front side very clean. But more importantly, a lot of people don't know this. Like when you draw, you do have like a left-handed and right-handedness with your brain. So you end up drawing very well, accurately down the left side of the body. And then the right side, you kind of measure off the left side to get to the right side. And then it's less accurate. So your work is maybe like 80% there. But if you work on both sides of the paper, you get 2 left sides, because you see it in mirror image, and then your work gets a lot better. And it's something that very few artists do. I don't know why they don't do it, but any artist out there, if you're drawing, your level of art is where it is, and it's going to stay like that probably for years because it's hard to get better. If you use this one trick and get used to it, your work could get like better as much as like 15 to 20% overnight if you just start doing it. So I mean, I want everyone's art to get better. So start drawing on the backside on a light table, especially an adjustable light table. And then your artwork will just get a lot better,
That's awesome.
Wow, so good.
I have to shout out Anne right here. She asked, Swag, do you own the original artwork cover for your comic? Well, Anne, it's funny you say that because I do own some of the original artwork for my cover, which is one done by Sean right here. Got this piece.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, beautiful.
I have to draw superhero comics so much, so it's nice to be able to do a different genre. So this is film noir, which has a lot of atmosphere and a lot of it works well in black and white. So
could you keep that up?
Let's give it to you.
I want
to do have my cover A right here as well, which is really cool. But
can we point out Sean's architecture? Sean, can you talk a little bit about your background on that one? Because your architecture game is literally like a buzzing topic within comic art collecting.
Well, I mean, it looks a lot harder than it really is. I mean, if you think about it, they're just rectangular blocks. But what's good about film noir is that it's called like the atmospheric perspective. So as you go further and further back, the buildings get lighter and lighter. And this is all done with a binary tool, like a pen. Ink pen is a binary tool. It's either black or it's white. So you can represent gray by cross-hatching or hatching. So it's just a matter of getting it to feel layered, and that gives it that atmosphere. So yeah, I mean, there are harder buildings to draw. This is not that hard because you don't have to draw individual windows because it's all like shadow shapes. But the harder ones are buildings in perspective, like a top-down view, like a drone shot with Spider-Man in it, where you have to draw like every single window, and you just have to know a little bit about architecture. And to get the most dramatic perspective, you have to do the very deep space, so that you have to show the streets being far down below with all the little cars and people. That's the harder perspective. And one of the hallmarks of my artwork is that I will draw the backgrounds. Just think about the most dramatic effect that I need, perspective-wise, no matter what angle, and then I will just actually hunker down and draw it. Even if it takes a whole day, I think it's worth it because of the impact, the visual impact that gives. And I'm willing to do that for the best results. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to check back in on the Kickstarter here. See if we cross the threshold. Are we going to get a little spinning of the wheel? Look at that.
Oh, hey.
$40,445. We hit it, guys. We hit the very, very satisfying $40,000 milestone. Congratulations.
Very respectable. Yes,
Clap
very
it
respectable.
Clap it up. 360 backers, 96 minutes to go.
Thank you, everyone, for helping.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Congratulations. This is really exciting. I think that's a very, very successful campaign overall. So, yeah, what do you guys think? How do you feel? Good?
I'm thrilled. So, yeah, I mean, it's great because I think people know what to expect of my artwork because it's been out there so much. You either like it or you don't like it, but you know what it is. But like I said, that's not even really that accurate because this is my best artwork because this is my baby, so I am doing my best work on it. What they don't really know, and the big wild card, is whether I can write it all. And all I can say to that is that I've been preparing this for decades. I took the original Robert McKee writing class 25 years ago, and I've been just a student of writing for so long. And I put the book out there to get some initial beta readers and initial reviews, and further refine the story based on that. But it seems like it's going over well from a story standpoint. So to get this many backers on something that is really just based on the art, because there's no track record with the writing. So hopefully on our next Kickstarter, people would read this and maybe say, well, okay, the story is good too. I mean, ideally, that would be great for them to say. And then, we can actually start getting even more. But for this number, for someone who is just primarily known for art, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge congratulations. You got some of and you have some of the original art stuff here too.
Let's talk
as
through
well as that. This one was which one was this one here?
This is basically, we call it the Comic Art Fans Bundle. So basically by backing this, not only do you get all the books, you also get a randomly placed piece of art from Sean's published works. So, we could definitely jump in that drive link if you have it in our private chat here, tier 6, because I love hearing Sean talk about each of his pages because he has like a photographic memory of where he was and what he was doing. And I don't know how, but when you pull up a page, like let's pull up the next one right now, he's going to talk about this because he remembers, what it is, what it's about, and where it's from. So, we could go through a couple of these, but we'd love to just show our chat, and friends of the channel, the kind of amazing work that he's done and what you may be getting, because, from Elektra to Fantastic Four to Spider-Man, Iron Man, I mean, there's so much stuff in here that are just beautiful works of art. And if you look at like some of the background works, it's huge and amazing. And so, yeah, just would love to pause at a couple. Maybe you could keep blasting until something really pops up for Sean, and then.
I'm gonna just flip through, and you can just stop me if you have one that you want to talk about.
Those Electro ones are black, white, and red before it was cool to be black, white, and red.
Yeah,
Sean, this Spidey one. What's the story here? Do you remember?
There's a screenwriter out there who works with Kevin Smith, and he was invited to write an 8-page story for Marvel. And this is a character called Slide. I think it's one of his lesser known villains. And so this guy's a comedian. I forgot what his name was. I'm really bad about that. But he's a screenwriter, and he writes a lot of comedy movies and a lot of the Pixar funny movies with animals in it. So he wrote the story, and Joe Quesada put me together with him to do this 8-page story. And it's a comedy piece because he's a comedy writer. And it was just great to collaborate with someone. But the typical thing with a lot of screenwriters is they have to kind of work their way into comics by altering their writing style, because it's a lot of similarities but a lot of differences. So I think this guy's name was something Lynch, like maybe Michael Lynch or something like that. Maybe even related to the great David Lynch. I'm not sure, but each one of these pages, I'll see it. It's kind of like triggers my photographic memory, and then a big story comes out of it. But you flip it over, and you can see the backside of all the work, the perspective lines, the anatomical masses. And a lot of people buy these pages because when you flip it over, there's like a little art lesson. You can actually learn how to draw buildings and people. And there are people who buy up a lot of the lesser known pages because they they're cheaper, and then they kind of learn from all the stuff that's on the back.
Hmm.
So yeah, these are all
X-Men the End.
Oh yeah, X-Men the End was a lot of fun. I think my only complaint was I love the X-Men. It's working with Chris Claremont, and there were 18 issues in all. Unfortunately, the end means that you kind of age them all up to like when they're like 65. So as much as I love drawing it wasn't really the characters that like how I remember them, because they're all, my parents' age running around. There's the backside and the front side there. But yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things that I ever did. It's like an 18 issue story that I drew the whole thing, which is I was impressed because I usually have like maybe a couple fill-ins every year when I'm on a monthly book.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of like it almost feels like, I don't know what a standard run would be, but it's like it feels like an artist turnover is pretty high these days. Seems like it's very rare that you get to like actually finish a full kind of run.
Yeah, I don't think it benefits anyone to stay on a book for that long, because every time you leave a book and start a new one, then you get an article about you in Wizard. So people get this bad habit of just like doing 6 issues or 3 issues and moving on to something else.
Mm.
And it's good for the short term, but bad for the whole. There's a lot of things that are being done in comics that are just bad for the medium in general over a long period of time. But everyone's kind of just moving through that company, like all the CEOs and all the editor-in-chief and even the artists are just there for a little while as they move on, and they'll just grab as much fame and money as they can. And I think it's really kind of hurt the business.
Yeah, it is. It's very, how would you say it's transient, or people kind of just going in and out and through, and get whatever it is on your resume, and then move on to whatever story you actually want to tell, or project you actually want to do and stuff. It's
like Evermind.
Yeah. Or you use it as a catapult. So
like I say, it's easier and easier to do that now, because if you wanted to hire an A-list artist from Marvel, it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, you can come up with a story, like you can reach into your pocket, reach deep, and then you can probably afford that artist, because the rates these days are not that great. And you see a lot of artists moving out of Marvel and then joining these communities of creators. And their number one mission statement there is just like Carl's. Basically, like, we're going to treat the creatives better and just put them in the forefront and make sure that they're taken care of. And I think if Marvel and DC don't do that, they might lose a lot of their talent and then maybe go to 2nd or 3rd tier talent.
Yeah. I had a video that I did on my podcast series where I actually spoke to Eric July. We talked a lot about the publishing pain points and stuff. Some interesting things, reading the comments. Some people feel like he's pretty polarizing and controversial at times, but I thought it was a good combo. But some of the stuff you're talking about is, I don't know if the big 2 publishing companies, as far as like creators are concerned, is it's unfortunate. It's not necessarily the place to do your best work or tell your best story, or it's not conducive. I mean, maybe for some people.
We do need Marvel and DC to be strong. Like, I don't want them to go down or suffer at all, because if they do well, then I do well. Like, I can't really sell Evermind unless there's a healthy industry, and it all starts with Marvel and DC doing well. So I want them to do well.
Yeah, likewise. Jose coming in, just came in. Is CGC worried? Well, Jose, you're gonna have to go back to earlier in the stream, in the conversation, we did talk a lot about CGC or CBCS's new labels. Covered a lot of different topics here today, but the answer to that question is probably not. Probably not. I do want to refer back to my poll here. We did seem like people do enjoy these things, but I don't know if I don't know who's the CEO of CGC, but I don't think they're losing any sleep over it.
Yeah.
Well, 40,605, 361 backers, 86 minutes to go.
Wow.
Guys, we've been going for about 2 hours here. This is pretty cool to cross the threshold, hit this milestone.
It is.
I did have a few other things that maybe we can talk. So, it's always so satisfying to see it go back up. I did have a few little markety things that I thought would be kind of just fun to talk about. I know there's a lot of comic collectors here, and we got to talk about some vintage stuff. And I don't know where I want to go with it. I just pulled up some of these books that I noticed sell on eBay. We could do a little bit of a market report, but I thought that this was interesting. Like right now, guys, if you don't know, eBay auctions is the place to get steals right now because nobody's watching this stuff, even more so than like a heritage auctions. Because at least heritage, you have like a certain clientele that checks into these, things, and they're not going to let an X-Men one just go by, for under market. But I thought this was interesting. Speaking of grading and stuff, this X-Men one, small amount of color touch on the cover. It's a C1 up there, which means like, maybe somebody took a little red Sharpie and filled in this little X-Men logo over here or put a little stuff on this. But this 4.0 selling for 5,100.
Wow.
Who's got, I don't know if people out there, like if you have a high risk tolerance, I think you can do pretty well with these types of things where you can buy a comic like this for $5,000, break it out of the case, try to get the color touch removed, which would be like literally cutting out pieces of the cover to get rid of the art, and then send it back in, and maybe it comes back a 3.5, but then you could sell this for $10,000, that sort of thing. So people playing the space. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if anyone out there in the chat has does this types of thing, does the chasing of the restored books and then tries to remove it and then flip it. But
what do you mean you cut out the color touch? I mean, you actually take a knife and then instead of being color, it'll be like a hole there, right?
There would be, yes. So, but technically, when you have some kind of restoration, you get this purple label at the top of this book as opposed to the blue one. So a lot of times when it says small amount of color touch, and you'll see right there, it says slight C1 over top of the 4. Like you don't know how much that is. It could be like, okay, someone really like filled in a lot, or it could be that literally it's like just dots that are filled in. And what you can do is, you can remove it. So let's say Magneto's helmet had a couple, like someone took a red Sharpie and just kind of filled it in. You could have someone precision take it out, and it'll cause a hole in the book, but you'll get a blue label out of it. And, maybe it drops down to a 3.5 or a 3.0, but like the value difference is worth it for some people.
It's weird. I'm not a fan of restorations, but I do when I send my books in, I do get them pressed, because getting them pressed makes such a big difference. It could be a grade or two sometimes. But, but I'm not a fan of restoration in general.
To that point, so Drew is saying here, if you're lucky, you can just scrape the color off, but it's probably going to be cut out if it's like a marker. But to your point, I mean, there's a reason that these types of books sell for so much less than their fair market value counterpart. Like if this is a 4.0, let me see, a 4.0 would be 13,800. So you're getting this book for almost a third, 40% of the value. So if you can cut it out and then get a 3.5 and sell it for 79, I guess you're doing okay. Maybe it depends on what you can get it for, but kind of an interesting one.
I mean, if you can get the color touch off of this thing and you still come back at like a 2.0 on a blue label, it's worth more than you paid for it.
Yeah, you would be right. You'd be right in line with where it's at. So another sale I thought was interesting. I did shout out to Drew, in the chat here. We did some videos on our channels talking about pre-code horror comic books and some of the artists that did these ones. And this one is done by Bernard Bailey. Is an artist that I talked about, but this Weird Mysteries #6, 8.0 raw copy, $6,100 for this book right here. Decapitation cover. I mean, that's it's one of the record prices. Like you can see there's only 48 on the census. In the last year, there's only been a 6.5 sold for $4,300. That's really it. And this one's
raw. Raw.
Yeah, raw book. Which is always a gamble, but
such a gamble.
It's a great cover. Love it.
It's a nice cover. Very nice cover.
Yeah. the PCH stuff. I don't know, Sean. Do you ever go back into the old like comic art days and Golden Age stuff, or pay any attention to those artists? Any inspirations? I guess you've always been kind of inspired by non-comic art in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Comics history begins with the formation of Image Comics for me, which is kind of sad because I don't have that history. I also never really had a desire to look back, because that stuff to me looked old, and I thought that really would infect the way my art looked, and that was just a bad attitude. But a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I wanted to change that attitude, and the artist Joe Giello lived near me, and at that time he was getting up there in age, so there was a lot of people who were trying to get commissions from him, like especially to get him to draw Batman and Robin. He couldn't do it because he had the Mary Worth daily strip to do, and which took his time, and it didn't pay that much. So there was a mountain of commissions he could do for a lot of money. So I actually answered an ad and actually worked with him in his studio, and I would take over the Mary Worth comic. This is something that's really not known out there, and it's never really been spoken about. But for a good while, I was drawing Mary Worth for the daily strips while he was doing commissions of Batman and Robin. And it was an honor for me to do that, because I get to be in his studio, and it was like a crash course in the history of comics, and his studio is like a museum. And just to be able to do that for him so that he could do the Batman and Robin commissions and make a lot more money than the syndicated strip would, I was glad to do that. And I actually really like drawing Mary Worth. I mean, it's like some old biddy who just drinks tea a lot in her living room with different neighbors, and there's like some sort of soap opera drama. It was fun to do for a while, and it's not something that really made it onto my resume. But if you find any originals out there, I can tell you which ones I did. So
yeah, I guess when
you have to mimic his style, or like what would you do?
Well, I would actually draw it in pencil, and I didn't mimic his style. I mimicked his storytelling composition, and then he would ink over it and then sign it so that it would end up being in his style. But and I did the lettering too, which is strange. I mean, I didn't know that was part of the job, but when I turned it in, he says, "Oh, you didn't put the lettering in there." I was like, "Oh, I thought I was just drawing the pictures," but I would actually have to letter those too, which is a lot of fun. So.
Which is more and more common now. Like in original art, I'm definitely seeing a lot of artists also handling the lettering, because I think that or else sometimes it becomes so, I think, disruptive to the art, as I've heard from some of the artists said, that they rather do it themselves, especially when there's like more.
Yeah, with a style like mine, if I'm drawing a background with lots of robots or a crowd or a building, which quite often is in my pages, I know it's going to be covered up by a word balloon, but I'll still spend a few hours drawing it, because if the word balloons came in between the penciling and inks, that would save me a lot of time. But at least we can have that tier whatever, which is the artist edition, where you can actually see it without the word balloons, and I guess it's good for that. But the word balloons actually does save a lot of time. It covers up a lot of background art.
Yeah. Well, a few other little market books. I just pulled them up just to talk about them and pat myself on the back with predicting this stuff. This Incredible Hulk 5/5, first appearance of Hulk, $28,100. Very big number. Big number. We go down here, and
the Hulk used to be gray, I guess, right?
He did. He first came out as gray in his first issue, and then was green in his second issue. I think what is the story behind that? I think they wanted to save money on the color or something like that of his printing, and they couldn't do green. That was the original rule, and then they figured that out. So he was gray in his first depiction. But Carl, sometimes you ask me about the market stuff of like some of the values and stuff, and see where comics are. So this last sale, $28,100 at this grade range, is the cheapest it's ever sold for. You got to go all the way back to 2020, basically, which is based on like a lot of graphs and stuff that I put together. Is that's kind of where every book is going. It doesn't matter if you are a Grail book or high grade or whatever. It's everything retraces back to its 2020 price. So all that COVID money getting squeezed out of these books, which I think is kind of interesting. And it takes a little bit of time. Like even a book like this, that's like, oh, it's a mega grail and stuff. It it puts up a fight for a time, it sells a little bit lower and then a little lower and then a little lower. And then, eventually it capitulates down.
So Mickey, are you seeing this in like the CGC market as well? But in the original art world, we're seeing like a unprecedented pieces of like really rare art stuff that people would consider grails coming onto the market. And I think it's not getting what they would get in 2020 prices, but because of that, a lot of folks are doing a ton of buying and trying to sell their other stuff to upgrade and whatnot. But you're seeing way more work that typically wouldn't hit the market before hitting the market now, because I think the economy is pushing people towards that. Is that happening in CGC as well?
I think so. Yeah, I think you have a lot. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that don't want to have to sell certain books, right? Like you don't want to have to take losses on some of your grails and keys and things like that. But there is a lot of books that are like more common that, like if people are just letting it rip and just giving it up. Like this book right here, X-Men 94, for the longest time, this was kind of the go-to X-Men comic, at least for the new team. And this one was absolutely insane what it was selling for. And it's really, really reset back down. And this is kind of the fear with some of these ones. I look at some of these graphs and I'm like, I mean, look at this one right here.
A hit. Ouch.
Yeah. Like, so that last sale I showed you, 990, you see it in 940, 950. And so you have to go back. It's like basically December of 2020 was $1,000. So, November of 2020 was 980. So it jumped all the way up to this $3,000 price point. And look at that, slide all the way down back to where it once was. And some of these books I think are interesting is like, look at this. Like this is something 2004 sold price of, what do we say? $700, $500. So
wow, COVID.
How's that for a return over the course of holding this comic for 15 years? It's the same price.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's crazy. What was the highest bump during the COVID?
$3,000.
Whoever exited during those times, like, knew what they were doing. But
man,
Mickey, and B mentioned something that I think we had talked about. This whole idea of like Ghost Machine making that announcement. We thought it was really interesting because it paralleled the distillery announcement, where you're finding AAA creators leaving the Marvel and DC ecosystem.
Yeah, true.
Doing their own and kind of forming these crews, right? In a way, at 24/7, we kind of have a crew as well. We just never announced it that way. But I do feel like that made. What are your thoughts on that? Is this a new trend? You think it's just a blimp in the radar, or you think it's more gimmick? I mean, we'll see. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. I mean, I'm not. I wonder what it's going to be. Like, it feels like, we're kind of moving into a world, right, where it's all about you're in smaller pools or corners of the internet, and you're kind of exist in certain spaces, and also, attention is currency, and having like being an influencer or whatever, having that following and really building up your own sort of audience. So it's like there's almost like more leverage in saying, hey, we're going to be like this crew of people that have this network and we all kind of share the same audience, versus like, I work for this Marvel company or whatever. So I wonder if that's sort of the model here. I mean, I could argue, like, is IP stronger or is the creator stronger? And it's sort of like always this push and pull, but it feels like in this world of, influence and social media and attention economy, like having that creator is more important. So I don't know. It's something that even when I was talking to Eric July in that video, we were talking about it, and it was like, yeah, maybe the future is like, of course there will still be Marvel and there will still be DC and those properties will exist, but then there's going to be like a massive publishing and distillery and 24/7 comics and all this stuff. And they're kind of going to have their own corners of the industry or the market. And maybe that's for the best, people just buy the comics that they like and support the people that they support.
Yeah, I think that's the direction we're all moving towards. I'm seeing that in the TCG world as well, because for years, Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh has been like the top three, just really hovering and controlling the market. But I've recently, in the last year, seen like Flesh and Blood. Was it like MetaZoo? I mean, like all these card games that you just never heard of come out of nowhere. And when I went to New York Comic Con this year, I saw Don, by the way, Josh. We had lunch, but then I went to the card playing area, and it was literally dominated by MetaZoo and Flesh and Blood. And I was like, "Where's the Magic players?" And like there wasn't any. I was surprised. I was like, "What the heck? What's going on?" There's D&D. There's a big D&D group, so that's kind of Wizards' presence there. But I was very, very kind of blown away. And MetaZoo in San Diego Comic Con actually had a much bigger line than the Hasbro booth. I mean, it was crazy. They literally had a Hello Kitty crossover, and that people stood in line that wrapped around the convention center. And we knew this because it was right in front of our booth. And so it just shows that maybe there's a lot more room for the smaller guys to come up now. But when I even talk to them, though, it's still a lot of hard work. They're very bootstrapped. They're working with a lot less resources, but it's showing that the audience are gravitating towards that. So that's definitely something that gives us a encouragement as we move forward in this indie publishing space.
Yeah, definitely. Well, going 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Nice.
I don't know if we're gonna last to. Looks like there's 69 minutes to go. Giggity.
Oh, nice. Giggity.
On the chat here. So I don't know if we're gonna go all of that way, but hey, we hit the milestone. We hit $40,000.
Yeah.
If you guys want to support this project, head on over to the Kickstarter. Let me put it in the chat one more time. You have almost a little more than an hour left to get on the train. But yeah, guys, congratulations.
Oh man, thanks, Mickey. Thanks for being part of the journey. You've been a great host to all the different live streams that happen throughout the process. So we couldn't have done this without you. Josh, been a great community manager, and Sean, you've been putting in so much work for this, and I really feel the passion, and I can't wait for everyone to read your book, because I do feel like people are seeing your passion right now, but once they read it, they're really going to feel the passion and really see the artwork speak for itself. So, and me personally, thanks to the community, because I think for me, I've been a passionate collector for many years. I also saw this as a great opportunity to onboard folks from collecting comics to art as well, by being able to offer Sean's original artwork as some of the tiers, and also being able to showcase his art in the artist edition. So I'm just super excited to get feedback once people get their packages.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mickey, for the platform. I mean, this is like the third time we're on your show, so thanks for letting us squat here. So yeah, the Kickstarter was a big experiment when we started, because it's our first, and didn't really know whether this model of creating directly for the fans and the readers would work. But based on how this went, I think it was a big success, and I think this is very exciting, because it just means that this is a new model for the way I do business, and I would like to keep creating and doing my best work for the supporters. And this is the beginning of something big. So I'm really happy with how things turned out.
Yeah. Just want to say, thanks again, Mickey, for having us on. You've been a huge supporter. I think it's going to be, once people get this book in their hands, they're going to, like, if we do another Kickstarter for issues 4, 5, or 6, it's going to shoot, blow this one out of the water, because issues 1 through 3 are so good, and the art is so great. The story is so well written. You're just going to have to know how it ends, and you're going to be backing. And, maybe we'll have a tier where it's like, you can get a bound book of 1 through 3 there as well. So it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see how this ends. And thank you, everybody, for your support and kicking if you could, and see you in Evermind.
Absolutely. Well, one more time, guys. Evermind Kickstarter, 66 minutes left. Get on the train. Also, shameless plug. You're watching on my YouTube. You're on my YouTube. But hey, I have some channel memberships, things like that you can do. Check this stuff out. I forgot to talk about this, but hey, you want to support me? You also have my comic book too, and I'm gonna have to get going on that Kickstarter as well, the second round. So we'll have to get that going, and then also a couple other videos here. If you're in the Halloween spirit, you want to learn about some PCH comic books. We got this PCH video series right here that you can check out.
Nice.
You want to hear about Eric July's thing? You want to hear about Voltron? All types of stuff here. All types of stuff for you guys to watch and check out. But guys, thanks so much for joining me this morning on the stream. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Had a lot of people here, even for this early morning. I think almost like 100 at one point. Yeah. And still 45 people hanging out right now. So very cool to see that. Gentlemen, congratulations on the success. Everyone in the chat, thanks for hanging out. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next stream.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.